Good morning, everyone. Hey, this is Frank Sinclair. I'm the Chief Encouragement Officer for Dream Again Business Consulting. I am here downtown today at beautiful Cafe 225, who were gracious enough to let us use their facility to tape the next mini documentary series, The Faces of Addiction. Today we have some wonderful ladies that have volunteered to share their story with you, to share the things that they've gone through and how the pain points of that have given them the opportunity to help others. We have the marvelous Vernon Jewell with Jewel PR shooting our video today. Tanya Skritic is my co-host. She's from Little Red Dragon Moving, and we are here to talk about human stories. There is nothing more incredible than human beings, and when they're being a lot of different things. So we want to break down and take away some of the stigma attached with our journeys and help the general public understand that this is simply the journey. We love that you join us today. I hope you saw our video on the faces of homelessness that we did a few months ago. We continue our journey today with the faces of addiction. Thank you for being with us.
What you see is a well-dressed young woman. Her hair is in place and her makeup is perfectly applied. She is overly flirtatious and a little on the loose side. Most see her as an easy opportunity, and she is. But what you don't see is the molested child she once was, acting out the only thing she knows to temporarily quiet the pain. And it temporarily does. So don't judge her. Pray for her. You see him and call him a player, as if that's a good thing. He treats women as though they're for hire, placed on this earth for his own empty desire. What you don't see is a young boy and a single mother who hooks to feed him and his brother. So men, don't encourage him. Protect and guide him while you pray for him. You see her, but you don't understand her. You watch her behavior with boys and you think of it as a disgrace. But then you're nice to her face. What you don't know is that her father died when she was 6, and she's been chasing his love ever since. So stop talking to your friends about her and start talking to God about her. You see me and call me a working girl. And you're right. I twist and I twirl. I manipulate and lie for the sole purpose of staying high. I dance for them and they hand me money. Then I snort it and I shoot it and I numb the self-hatred away. Then I do it again the next day. Can't you see? Can't you see me? Then help me. Pray for me.
Good morning, everyone. This is Frank Sinclair. I am with Tanya Skritic this morning, and Tanya's been so welcoming and kind in agreeing to come on video this morning and talk about her life, her journey, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so thank you, Tanya, for being here. Young lady, introduce yourself once again. I know we got a quick snapshot outside because you really kind of helped me in all of these productions that we're doing and what we have planned, and I'm so thankful that you would agree to do that. So tell people, just introduce yourself real quickly, and tell people who you are.
I'm Tanya Skritic. I, with my husband, own a moving company here in Colorado Springs called Little Red Wagon Moving. I'm not sure exactly how much more to tell. I'm a recovering addict, and that's what we're here to talk about this morning.
That's what we're here to talk about, isn't it? It's incredible. You look at Tanya, and I know you wouldn't think that we would be talking about this story with this beautiful young lady this morning. Tanya, but I guess that's the reason we're doing it, though, because people that are walking beside you every day, that live next to you, that you interact with, that you go to the grocery store with, that you go doctor's office with, and you're rubbing elbows every day. There's so many people that are struggling in silence, and we're trying to help with that, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Yeah. We want to put a face to the problem that we have here in our nation and our city.
Indeed. So thanks again for being so courageous. Tell us a little bit about your journey. How did addiction come to be something that you became closely acquainted with?
Okay, well, I guess it starts out, it's not something that I thought that would ever happen, that I'd ever be involved with. Even as a teenager, I was offered different types of drugs, but never even went down that road. And it wasn't until my early 40s when my marriage was falling apart and I was struggling with depression and not knowing who I was, what my identity was, and I was introduced to the drug, and it was something that I thought, well, it's no big deal. I'll try it. I've heard that it makes you, have a lot of energy, makes you feel good about yourself. And in the beginning, that's actually what happened. I had a lot of energy. I became super mom, super wife. And, but like I said in my other video, it's a liar. It's not what it's cracked up to be. It actually changes who you are, your personality, your actions, your motivation, and it's not something easy that you can quit because it becomes a part of who you are and your chemical makeup. And so it really honestly destroyed me as a person. So
it is true. And I look and I think for people that don't understand addiction, that what it's like, how would you describe that? Oh, let's back up a minute before we even go to that question, because I'm sure people are curious. They're asking, okay, she was living a privileged life. She had a family, kids, these other trappings of success. Why drugs?
That's a good question. It's an escape. It's an escape from the problems that you might have, the struggles that you're going through. It's mind-numbing. And when, for people who don't understand depression just eats at you. It takes away all the joy in your life. And drugs numb that. Drugs take away the things that are making you sad. It disguises those with happy thoughts, but like I've said, it's a liar. It catches up with you, and the one thing that was really hard for my children was it changed my personality. It made me angry, bitter, frustrated. I embarrassed them in public, and I wasn't their mom anymore. I was a completely different person.
Oh my, yeah, yeah. So, being in the I know that. Well, I don't know exactly, but going from where you were living into almost another community.
Right. So my addiction got so bad that it wasn't a good idea for me to stay in my home. And I left and I became homeless. I lived in my car. I spent about 7 months on the streets and going from place to place, a lot of time spending time in my drug dealers' homes, spending a lot of time in the Walmart parking lot in the coldest months of the year, and having a car that wasn't running, no money for gas, and I was just consumed with my need for my addiction. So it's a miracle that I made it through all of that. And I'm able to sit here today. So,
could you describe? Is there a moment in time when you realized that the life you were living, and that it was going to be different, coming from drugs.
Right. Right. So what I would say is it was kind of an aha moment. I remember sitting alone in my car and feeling very hopeless. And I just thought about my children and thinking, well, there's no reason for me to be here. Nobody likes me anymore. Nobody loves me. My kids won't talk to me, my friends, my family. I basically was nothing. And I thought about sitting there, what would it like for my children to go to my funeral if I wasn't here anymore? And I didn't want that to be the reality. So I said, okay, well, I'm better than this. I can fix myself if I just make a phone call, if I just call someone to help me. So I found a rehab center in Parker, Colorado called Parker Valley Hope. And I told them that I wanted to change my life. I didn't want to be an addict anymore. I wanted to be Tanya again. And they said, okay, come. And so that was my moment when I thought about my children going to their mother's funeral, and I thought that would, as awful as I was then, it would be so much more devastating not to have me at all. And that was my aha moment.
Is there something you like to end with today to tell the community that could be helpful, that comes from your journey? Any parting words?
Well, for people who know me today, you know me as a kind, loving, giving person. And I've had this journey. And what I would say to anyone when you're looking at someone who may be on the street, may be homeless, may have a substance abuse problem in your own family, they have worth. They have a God-given plan. And that's not their plan, to be stuck in addiction and stuck in their circumstances. And I would just give them grace. That's what I would give.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Nothing gives you a heart for others like going through things yourself, right?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And she obviously has the heart to reach out and to help other people become the people that they were put on earth to be.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
so proud of you.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Hi, guys. Frank Sinclair again here. Hey, let me introduce you guys to a friend of mine. This is Corey Lease.
Hello.
And Corey is such a courageous young lady. She's agreed to come here and talk to us a little bit about her journey. So we're going to kind of flesh that out a little bit, Corey, talk about your journey a little bit. So first of all, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
My name's Corey. I recently moved to Colorado Springs from Denver, so I'm new to the area, and I met Frank through church a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about addiction, and we know all the mystery that surrounds addiction, and it's always someone else, it's not us. And you've walked this journey recently, actually. Tell people a little bit about that, you're walking with addiction.
I recently I went through pretty traumatic life experience, and instead of dealing with it the way that most people do by going to like therapy and talking about it, I didn't, and I started drinking a ton, and then that drinking turned into more than a need than a want. So I was drinking like every day, starting from when I woke up to when I passed out drunk. And it happened for about like 7 months. And I recently stopped, and I've been sober since. the beginning of September, but it was rough.
Yeah. Which part was rough? The stopping or the whole?
Just everything,
engage?
like
Yeah.
everything about it, because like drinking used to be like fun for me, and then it got to the point where I would drink to like pass out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that wasn't fun. I don't really remember like any of this year, which sucks. I've gotten myself into a lot of trouble legally, and I'm currently facing jail time. And then getting sober sucked too, because I had to. I'm still dealing with a lot of stuff that I don't want to deal with, but I have to deal with to get healthier. And I'm realizing a ton of stuff that I like messed up, and I have a lot of guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is tough. So we know that the alcohol was part of your journey, and you hit it heavily. What else have you done? What drugs of choice for you?
I've tried like hallucinogens like acid and mushrooms. I smoke weed. I've been smoking weed every day since I was 14. I haven't stopped yet. But I don't really look at that as an addiction.
Okay.
And then for a little bit, I got into cocaine, and that's what started my legal trouble. And I have an addictive personality, so like when I do it, I don't stop.
So going and drinking that heavily, when did the transition from drinking alcohol, which we know how addictive that can be. I've been through alcoholism myself. And when did you say, this isn't enough, I'm going to try something else?
Probably when I was like 15 or 16.
That early?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because it was around.
With
And-
your college friends?
Yeah, and I saw people like doing it, and I was like, oh, they're cool. I want to try that because like of just like how they were acting. And then when I tried it, it gave me like a ton of confidence. I don't know, I could just go up to people and start conversations, and I felt like they were like actually like really into my conversation. And really, looking back at it, they were just high. But
Yeah. Well, that's something that kind of uncovers something, because accepting, do you feel like maybe the Corey that was inside of you was kind of unleashed when you were high, or you really kind of got to be who you are? Do you agree that?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Like the drugs that I tried when I was younger, like cocaine and like ecstasy, those type of drugs gave me like the confidence to like go out and talk to people. And then like I felt like whenever I went to a party, like that's what I needed to be able to like socialize.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm a shy person.
Yeah, I know you. Yeah. Yeah, but that kind of brought you out full force then, right? Yeah, and people kind of gravitated to that, and that must have felt pretty good. Yeah. So what is the moment in time? I know that you're facing some things right now, some pretty scary stuff, right? And my heart really goes out for you. You know, I'm praying for you every day that this turns out okay. But what is the moment in time when you felt, you know what, I want my life to be different than, but you kind of stayed clean since September. What was the event that says I'm not gonna?
Well, I tried to kill myself in the beginning of September. And I went to a hospital. And I just realized there, like, I don't know, something in my head just like clicked. I realized that like I wanted to live, because I've tried to kill myself throughout my life at least like 4 times. Twice this year. And I've been to hospitals twice this year. But this second time, it just like, I don't know, something in my head like clicked, and then I realized like all the trouble that I got into, like I'm gonna have to deal with that. I'm gonna have to face that. Like I need, like something needs to change, because if it doesn't, like I am gonna die and my family is gonna miss me, and like that's the only thing that's really like kept me going is my family.
Wow. I feel like I'm your family now. And I know your family. I'm so glad that there's rallying around you in this tough time. I have one more question I wanted to ask you. For people who don't understand what addiction is and what it's like, is there any way that you can describe it to them? The many times that's the barrier for people. They don't get it. Mm-hmm. They don't get, why would someone put something in their body that would that could potentially hurt them, or
right. Well, I mean, like I feel like everyone has an addiction, whether it be like to coffee, to working out, to watching TV, to whatever it may be. People like overindulge in a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And for people that decide to do that with alcohol or drugs, I mean, they're obviously they're hurting. Mm-hmm. They're really hurt people. And other people, I mean, like they have the mindset to just like not let it affect them. But then there are other people that they're not strong enough. They don't think they're good enough. They don't think they deserve to be treated well in life. So that's what they turn to, because it makes them feel good. Mm. And that feeling, I feel like they don't want to lose that feeling, because they don't have anything else good in their life. Mm.
What a great answer. And I'm going to tell you why I think it was such an amazing answer too, in that you used the metaphor of people, everybody's an addict. Really, at the end of the day, aren't we? Yeah, we're either drawn to some. There's some things that are good. We can be, but I don't meet very many people that are balanced. Mm-hmm. They go to the extreme on one thing and another. It's either they're exercising, that becomes their addiction, or food becomes their addiction, or shopping, or pornography, which I've struggled with personally too, or whatever. There's something that we're drawn to feel that emptiness is in there. So it's not so strange that we'll do a substance or something. Mm-hmm. Right? Don't you agree? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for me, like that's what I used to turn to alcohol, and I still crave it sometimes, but when I go through like my lows, I think about where I was at just like 3 months ago and where I'm at now, and like dealing with those issues sober has helped me grow a ton.
Yes, I've seen the difference from the very first
even
time.
Like since September, like I feel like I'm a completely different person. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you're pretty cool before, but now you're rocking it. So it's awesome. Once again, I want to thank you for coming on camera with us today and being transparent and open about your struggles and the things that you're going through. Yeah, you got a lot of us out here rooting for you, my friend. It's going to be okay. Yeah, we're going to make it through this. So, once again, guys, Frank Sinclair with Corey Lease, and my hold her up in your thoughts, whatever it is that you send out and think about as she faces some very difficult things short term, but long term, she's going to be in even more incredible than she is right now. Thanks for being with
Thank
me.
you.
I appreciate it.
Hi, I have the privilege to sit here with Bree Reese. She is the CEO of Elite Roofing, one of the fastest growing companies in Denver, Colorado at this time. And she's going to tell us a little bit about her journey with addiction.
So, yeah, my name is Bree Reese. I say CEO today, but I haven't always said that. I've said a lot of different things, and I've had a lot of different identities. As of February, I will be sober 10 years. But I started drinking and using drugs at a very young age. Well, young for me, at 15, 16. Kind of light drugs at first, and then moved into heavier ones as I got older. I got pregnant when I was 17, so I was 5 months pregnant when I graduated high school. So I had my son when I was 18 years old, and I just really wasn't ready to be a mom at all. At all. I wasn't ready for that type of responsibility, and I wasn't ready to sacrifice what you need to sacrifice in order to be a parent. So I think just like some pain from my childhood coupled with, destructive guilt of not being a great parent or what I needed to be to my son kind of was a slippery slope for me. I've also, I'm still a rebel. I just rebel against different things now.
What was your driving issues that led you into having a lifestyle of addiction?
I think when I was 5, a sexual encounter happened. So I think that was a big part of it. It was something that I was never really able to process through or share with my family or my parents. And so I think that was an enormous part of it. When you stuff something like that so deep down, it just kind of destroys you. And then children don't make mature decisions. They don't know how to process complex emotions. And so whatever way that my little brain processed that event was super unhealthy.
Right.
So I think I behavior modified for a long time. But eventually that came out. And what allowed all that pain to come out for me was drugs and alcohol. I was finally I felt like I found something that I was able to cover up that constant stabbing pain. And so right around that same time that I got into drugs and alcohol, my parents got divorced. And so the foundation that I had placed all my life in shattered. And it was messy.
Yeah.
So that didn't help. And then I got pregnant with my son, and that didn't help. So about 19, I started using, 18, I started using cocaine. 19, I started using meth. Shortly after that, I started using meth intravenously.
Okay.
So from that moment on, it was just
what was the moment where you knew your life was going to change? That your, so to speak, aha moment?
So I was sitting in a car. I had just found out that I was pregnant with my daughter.
Okay.
And I tried really hard not to use, but I was living in basically a drug house.
Right.
Just a group of people in an apartment that all used drugs, and that's all we ever did. We didn't work. We just found creative ways to get money and do drugs and that chaos. So I had just found out that I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was sitting in a car with my boyfriend, and we were waiting to get drugs. And he looked at me and he was like, "I think you should get an abortion." And I was like, I wasn't angry with him for saying that because I didn't have my son.
Right.
I didn't have my son. I was clearly not a good mom, clearly not ready to have another child. There was nothing in my life that pointed to another baby would be a good idea, you know? And so, and for him too, like the same thing was for him. You know, we met in rehab, like, our entire relationship was based around drugs. That was the center and the focal point of our relationship and the chaos. But I just was like, I can't lose another baby. Right. So like, I knew that, like, I had to change. Like that I had to change, because not only did this new baby not deserve a parent like me, like my son, like I needed to make that right. Like what I was doing to my baby, you know?
Right. So what steps did you take in order to make your life better?
So I called my mom a couple days later. I told her that I was pregnant and that I was ready to change. And I had asked her if she would consider allowing me to move back in with her. And she just happened to be moving to Castle Rock because my brother was opening the roofing company, and she was going up there to help him with that. And so she told me she would pray about it. And so a couple days later, she called back and said she felt like God was saying that it was time and that I could do that. And so I moved in with my mom in Castle Rock. She bought an apartment or rented an apartment, and we moved up there together. And Keenan stayed with my dad, and he would come up on the weekends, and then I could get him for 3 days, and then I could get him for 4 days, and then I was having him on the weekdays and they were having him on the weekends. And so about, I want to say 6 months of that back and forth, everybody was finally comfortable to say, okay, you can have your son back. And like, that was my big objective. Like, I wanted to get my son back before the new baby came.
Right. Yeah. Something that your husband said when I was talking to him before the interview, he said, it's like a car windshield. The rear view mirror is small on purpose. It's to remind you of the past, but that you're not living in the past. And you're looking forward, you're moving forward. And I like that analogy. I think that's a great way to describe anything that you've had a struggle with, is that you live through it. It is what it is, but your focus should be forward, not backwards. It's to remind you of your past, but I think that's a great analogy. So for someone watching this video that doesn't understand what addiction is, doesn't understand the reason why it's such a struggle, how would you describe that to them?
So I wrote a poem once, and I said, it feels like you're walking, but you're only moving one leg, just making circles around and around and around. And with every step you take, you dig a tall steel bar deep into the ground, so far that no conventional tools can remove them. With every step and every bar, you build yourself a personal prison that becomes harder and harder to break free of. And just like a physical prison, you get used to living in the pain, afraid to adjust back into society. So to me, that's what it's like. It's just like a flesh prison, you know, like you're trapped inside. Like Paul talks about in the Bible that like we do the things that we don't want to do, and we don't do the things that we need to do. And it's like that on steroids. It's just like this. I think most people have related to some form of depression. Like they know what it feels like to just be discouraged. So I think if somebody can tap into, okay, like the moment in their life that they felt the most discouraged, that's what it's like. But it's like a permanent version of that. If it was like a cartoon, it would be a little cloud that just like followed you everywhere you went.
I remember when I was in rehab, and the one thing that I felt most like you was relief. Like, okay, it's over. I don't have to be this person anymore. I can be anyone I want to be. I have the ability, I have the drive. And so when people look, when you're walking down the street in Denver and you see folks sitting on the side of the street, and a lot of people would think, well, they're, what a waste. They're nothing. what would you say to disagree, to fight that argument?
I guess I would say they're trapped. Like not everybody has a mom they can call,
Right.
to say, can I come live with you for a little bit while I get sober? I couldn't have gotten sober where I was at. It never would have happened.
Right.
It's like, I just think that people need to be more gracious and understanding to the circumstances. Like you don't really know what's going on inside somebody's life. Just like what you said, somebody that would walk by me in the street or know that I'm the CEO of a roofing company or whatever, and not look back and be like, oh, like she was addicted to drugs and a stripper 10 years ago. Like nobody, like you don't know where I've been. And that's the same flip side. Like you don't know the circumstances that got that human being to where they're at.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Well, it is very moving to speak with you. I feel like people have gained a lot of knowledge about what life is like on the other side of the coin. Mm-hmm. And I just, I'm glad I got the opportunity to interview you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Frank Sinclair back with you this morning with my co-host Tanya Skritic, and we're here with the incredible Melissa Hicks. Melissa owns Miss Cleaning Cleaning Company.
Yes.
I'm going to talk about your company. So we've been interviewing ladies of note this morning who have the common thread of addiction in their past and walking through that in their lives. So Melissa, thank you for being with me.
Thank you for having me, Frank.
You're very welcome. This morning, Tanya and I are going to ask you a few questions, and I know you've agreed to be candid, and your story is really what's going to help other people navigate their own.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about you, Melissa.
My present me? Okay. I'm 36 years old, and I did open a cleaning company about 8 years ago now. I have two daughters. One is 7 and one is 9 months. And they're both girls, and they're both dramatic, and I love them so much. It's so much fun having girls, and I am married to a wonderful husband who supports me in everything, so I'm really blessed in that.
Where did your journey with addiction begin?
So my journey began very early in life. A lot of addicts go through trauma, and sometimes it's trauma that they don't actually realize is trauma. Mm-hmm. So at 5 years old, I watched my brother murdered in front of my house. We were in the military, and he was shut into a bus door and ran over. Oh, and so I saw that at 5. And then we were in the military, so it's kind of like back then you get over it. Like there is no, counseling. There was no, checking in every day. Like it was just, you're going to get over it. Like it didn't happen. It was as if it didn't happen. And so I had this relationship with my brother, for 5 years, and then he was gone and nobody talked about it. So, my trauma began there. And then my dad was just very, very abusive. I was going to school with black eyes. I was going to school with, fat lips. And back then, child abuse was not, it was like, overlooked very much. I would go to school with bruises, and my teachers would have me lift up my shirt and they would see the bruises on my back. And, I just remember them doing that and then nothing happening ever. And so I went through so much abuse with my dad, and then my mom was just, kind of not there. She would take off with different guys, and I really didn't see her too much. And so when I was about 8 years old, my dad was actually kicked out of the military because of spousal abuse. And so we actually moved into a shelter. We lived in the back of a camper. We were completely homeless. And so we lived in shelters, and then we lived in government housing, and I grew up, very poor, like on food stamps. We didn't have anything. I didn't have clothes to go to school. I was always made fun of. I would go to school with black eyes and my hair not done and horrible clothes, and I was always made fun of. So I would say that that's where it began. It just started trickling more and more pain in my life. So at 12 years old, my dad beat me so bad that I had bruises all over my face, and my face was black, like completely black and blue. The police came, a neighbor called the police, and they called my mom, who was living in Illinois with a husband, and told her, come get your daughter within 24 hours or she's going in the system. Mm-hmm. And that's how it was back then. And so she came from Illinois, came and got me, and I went to Illinois with her, and I partied with my mom. I was drinking, I was smoking, my mom was on crack. She was doing all these different drugs. And so I was just hanging out with my mom and partying with her. Mm-hmm. I went to group homes. We hitchhiked.
What propelled you at 21 to make that jump over to a different life?
Well, for me, it was somebody finally gave me an answer that I was looking for.
Oh, my.
I had been looking for an answer since I was 13 and never saw a different life.
And what were the steps that was taken at 21? You went into this home,
yes,
but that doesn't guarantee sobriety.
No.
So how did you manage that? What happened?
I was so tired by the time I went there of living on the streets and, having nothing. And so by the time I got there, I was so tired that I was willing to do anything to change my life.
People that don't understand addiction, that's why they have a very difficult time with addicts. That's why they have, because I think a lot of it is that it kind of uncovers themselves. Tanya said something that was very, very, very profound earlier today, that everyone's an addict to something.
In a different way.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Drugs and those things get all the get all of the attention,
yeah,
if you will. But everyone has that. Do you agree that possibly the population at a whole are afraid because our addictions are so obvious,
yeah,
that it unveils something in them?
Yes.
What do you think about that?
So I used to say that, it's kind of like this analogy that I would say is that crackheads will steal your stuff and help you look for it, and they'll tell you they stole it. Okay, so you're a crackhead, you're a crackhead, and everybody knows it too. Okay,
right.
But when you're on meth, you'll steal it and pretend that you didn't even know it was taken, and you'll help them find it. But in your mind, you didn't take that, but it's in your back pocket. So it sneaks up on you like you don't know you're an addict. So it's like society is that we're all addicted to something. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's people addicted to makeup, addicted to coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm addicted to coffee. So, I mean, everybody's addiction is different.
Yeah.
But
some of them are just
face,
socially acceptable.
Yeah.
I know that people looking at you now probably couldn't imagine that that was the case. I mean, if they look at Frank and I and think, really you went down that road? But the best part of having those struggles is succeeding after. Being able to look back in the rearview mirror and know that happened, but you're here now, and you can be a gift to other people. And I see that. I see that you're a gift to other people now. You can minister to them. You can tell them that they're better than their circumstances now. How does that play in your life? Are you able to talk to folks that are struggling now? You said a little bit about that.
My mom lived on the streets for a long time. I tried to take her in and, basically save her. I tried to save her so many times, and she would steal from me. She would get clean, and then she would stay clean for a while, and then she would steal from me and go back out. And I used to be so angry because I would think, why can't my mom just be like a normal mom? Like, why can't, she would say things like, you don't love me, and things that, you know, a child would tell a mother.
Right.
And so she would tell me those things, and I would be angry sometimes. And then my mom, you know, she was living on the streets this, you know, last December in her car, and she left by choice. After repeated times of, you know, doing the same thing, she left. And at that point, I decided to cut her off. I was like, I'm done. You know, I've tried to help you so many times, and I can't allow my daughter to be hurt anymore by you coming and going. So I cut her off, and I hadn't talked to her in probably 7 months. Well, December of last year, we got a call, and she was in a coma and in the hospital in Denver, and we went up there right away. And my mom ended up dying in January. And, you know, I look back and being tired of seeing my mom make the same mistakes over and over, and, you know, I cut her off. I regret that so much, because you can be a light in somebody's life without enabling them.
Right.
And so I cut her off, and I didn't speak to her, and she died in her addiction. And I just think, you know, and now I try to live my life like I'll never, ever be that way to somebody again. Like, I don't have to enable somebody. I don't have to allow them in my home. I don't have to allow them in my child's life, but you can always offer love and understanding and talking to somebody, because sometimes people just need to hear you. And, you know, my mom lost a son, and she was severely abused, and my dad abused her. And so I didn't see those things until she passed. I didn't see that my mom had a reason to be the way she was.
Yeah.
She was a broken person.
Yeah. That's incredible. Well, when you walk down the street, when anyone walks down the street and they see folks that are homeless, or that are, you know, even in a restaurant, you see someone struggling, they have a story, they have purpose, and it's our job, Frank's job, your job, my job, all of our jobs to acknowledge them, even a hello, something. That human connection is what keeps people going.
It does. Melissa, thank you.
Thank you.
You are incredible. We're so glad that we had the opportunity to spend this moment with you. You've added something to our lives this morning that only you could do.
Thank you.
Yeah, only you could do.
I really appreciate being here.
Yeah, we appreciate having you. Once again, this is Frank Sinclair. I want to thank my co-host Tanya Skridak from Little Red Wagon Moving. Also, Bree Reese, the CEO of Elite Roofing, that has been here with us today talking, in addition to Corey Lease, a young lady who's in the midst of this battle even as we speak right now. The faces of addiction. Remember, if you look into someone's face, to their eyes, into their hearts, they're just looking for dignity. That's your responsibility and mine to do that for other human beings. Thanks for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed part 2 of our series.